welcome to Snipisode 13 of the Daily Dose of DMC podcast. Today is Wednesday, January 18th, 2023, and I'm your host, HK. Good morning, all you lovely people, and welcome back to another Daily Dose of DMC, your daily dose of positivity as we learn to transform our minds to think more positively each and every day in all situations and all scenarios. That is what this is. The world needs more positivity, and I think we all could use a little bit of the daily dose. Today I want to talk to you guys about how to reframe negative thoughts. We talked about positive reframing in Snipisode 4. If you haven't listened to that, I encourage you to go listen to that as well and then jump back to this one. What we're basically doing today is just looking at this from a different angle. Positive reframing is just, like I said in the previous episode, is just a cognitive technique. It involves interpreting a negative situation in more positive light. We talked about negative emotions and self-talk, looking at situations differently. However, in this episode, the way I came about this is because somebody just recently asked me, who listened to that episode, to kind of share a little bit more about what I do or how to become more aware and reframe those negative thoughts. So I found that very interesting. So there's 6 points I want to note. First point is practice being aware of negative thoughts and feelings. Straightforward, very logical. That is absolutely the first step in learning positive reframing. It's to become more aware of when you're experiencing those negative thoughts and feelings. That means paying attention to your internal dialogue, to that cinema in your head, at school, at work, at home, in the car, wherever it is. Just notice when you're thinking negatively, being aware of your negative thoughts, and then catching yourself before you begin spiraling into that negative mindset. And we've all been there. However, I know that catching your inner dialogue, which is basically self-talk, is challenging. So I've noted a couple things down, a couple tips that may help you catch your inner dialogue. And I want to share those with you quickly. So first of all, take a moment to pause. Something I've needed to learn. I'm kind of that person, let's get going, let's go. But you got to take a moment and pause. Take a few minutes each day, whatever it is. Just sit quietly, focus on your breath, become more aware of your thoughts. This helps you catch your inner dialogue. And if you find that difficult, just start small. I mentioned in a previous episode, creating habits starts small. Start with 30 seconds, go to 40 seconds, whatever it may be, whatever helps you. This is based on how you want to do it. Secondly, keep a journal. I love journaling. I just about always have my journal, a small notebook with me. Got lots of those as they filled up over the years. But writing down your thoughts can help you become more aware of your inner dialogue. It doesn't have to be a full-fledged journal. Here's my entry for the day. It could just be notes. It could be whatever you're experiencing in that very moment, whatever you want to write down and just get out and process. But that helps you understand your patterns of thinking, which is definitely useful in identifying negative thoughts and reframing them. Thirdly is practicing mindfulness, and mindfulness is something we talked about in a previous episode as well. It's just being present, being more aware of your thoughts and your feelings and surroundings, paying attention to those thoughts and feelings, just becoming more aware, and that helps you with your inner dialogue as well. Practice self-reflection is the next note that I have. Just take some time each day to reflect on your thoughts and feelings. And like I said, you can do that through journaling. You can talk to a therapist, your spouse, a trusted friend, whatever it is. You can do it with yourself. Just take a few minutes, sit quietly, reflect on your thoughts. You can see how these kind of intertwine, and also all these episodes and topics kind of intertwine and touch on each other. And that's why it's so important just to keep going over this over and over again, because we're training our minds. Fifth point that I have is use reminders. Use reminders like an alarm, sticky notes. I used to do a lot of sticky notes on mirrors in the bathroom. Ask my wife. I just put them all over the place, kind of just to see them and check in with my thoughts throughout the course of the day. And then ultimately, just kind of as a side note, it's not really a tip, but just be persistent. And it takes some time. It takes time to become fully aware of that inner dialogue. Just be patient, be persistent, because the more you practice it, just like sports or anything else in life, the more you practice it, the easier it's going to become ultimately. So those are just a few tips that I have that kind of can kick you off in practicing being aware of those negative thoughts and feelings. So, second point when it comes to what I want to share with you guys today is look for the silver lining in negative situations. So once you've become aware of your negative thoughts and feelings, that next step is to look for positive aspects in any given situation. This is where you ultimately begin reframing your thoughts by finding good in situations, those potential benefits in difficult situations that you face in life, wherever it is, work, school, home, can be anywhere. But let me give you an example. So you lose your job. The silver lining might be that you now have the opportunity to find a new job that you'll potentially enjoy more. I know that's easier said than done, but just give that some thought. Another example would be you're stuck in traffic. The silver lining to that is you're able to use the time to listen to a podcast or an audiobook rather than focusing on why you're stuck in traffic and being frustrated and starting to run that negative cinema in your head and how getting angry. So that's how you find the silver lining in negative situations. And just, on a side note, one thing I've noticed is that looking for silver linings in any given situation, over time you should also start really building resilience. You develop resilience. We've talked about that as well. But it really allows you to find that meaning and purpose in each one of those situations, as odd as it may sound, which ultimately makes it easier to cope with similar situations down the road. And there's one thing I really want to note here is it's important to look for that silver lining. However, when we're talking about positivity, that doesn't mean ignore or minimize negative aspects of the situations you're facing, but rather it's about recognizing that even in difficult situations, there may be something positive to be gained. It's just reframing your thinking. It's just a helpful tool to shift your mindset in a more positive direction. That's all that it really is. So that's just something I just want to throw out there as well. We need to also understand the negativity and process that. We can't just push all that negativeness away. Is that a word? But anyways, we can't just do that. We also need to recognize that in difficult situations. Point number 3 is challenge negative thoughts by asking yourself specific questions and looking at everything from a different perspective. So when you're in a negative mindset, it's easy to get stuck in negative thoughts. That's just somehow how we're wired, I guess. To break out of that cycle, it's important to challenge those negative thoughts simply by asking questions. That's how you begin in changing. Sorry, just lost my train of thought there. In changing how you see things from a different perspective. So, for example, when you're feeling down about any kind of mistake that you made, you could potentially ask yourself, what did I learn from this experience? I've mentioned that in a previous Snipisode. Or how can I use this experience to improve in the future? It's just asking questions to help you reframe your thoughts and see the situation in a more positive light. And there's like a ton of questions you can ask yourself. Just do a quick search. Off the top of my head is there any evidence that contradicts this thought? Or what would a good friend say to this situation? Just ask yourself those questions. Number 4 is practicing gratitude. Just practice gratitude by focusing on those things that you're thankful for. And gratitude is actually a Snipisode we talked about as well. You'll see all this kind of overlaps and just ties into itself over and over again. It's like Inception. But one way to counteract those negative thoughts and feelings is just to focus on the things that you're grateful for. Like I said, I get up every morning and I tell myself how thankful I am to be able to do that. And this includes anything from the people that you love to the little things that make you happy. At any point of the day, just focus on gratitude. That helps you shift your focus away from running those negative thoughts in your head and actually seeing the positive aspects of your life, no matter where you are. So, like I said, we covered gratitude in, I believe, Snipisode 3. So just go have a listen to that. Number 5 is surround yourself with positive people. Just engage in activities that you enjoy, basically, with people that are positive. When you do that, that'll have a big impact on your mindset. Surrounding yourself with positive people and engaging in activities that you love doing just helps change your perspective. Makes you feel better. Especially when you're doing like sports. I love doing sports, all kinds of sports, because it really gets your endorphins going. Like those hormones are just released in your body. You just feel a lot better. But there's a lot of ways to do that, And it's ultimately down to doing what you enjoy doing, especially with people that are positive, like your sports team or a chess club, whatever it is. And lastly, point number 6 is, and this is what I noted in point 1 as well, is it takes practice and patience. It really takes practice and patience to change your thinking patterns. This is something we pass down to our kids. Notice when they get frustrated in certain situations, I'll give you an example in just a second as well, but it's just important. It's important to be kind to yourself. This is something I've had to learn as well. I'm the type of person who just, I've done something in the past, made a mistake, run a cinema in my head, and until I began learning this and really focusing my mind on the positive aspects of life, and includes positive reframing, I was always just beating myself up. But positive reframing is just a skill. Yeah, it's something that takes time to learn. It's important to be patient with yourself while you're learning it. Be kind to yourself. You're going to slip up. You're going to have negative thoughts. Just remember that everyone goes through the same thing as well. Everyone has negative thoughts from time to time, myself included, even today. But it's just important to be patient and compassionate with yourself as you're working on reframing your thoughts in a more positive way. The example I just wanted to give about my children, for example, they play tennis, and at the very beginning, the first couple weeks, they just started getting into it. We did a lot of practice with at their academy, off the field with myself, and you could tell from time to time they got really frustrated. And I would tell them, just acknowledge the mistake, move on, next point. And I kept telling them that, just that simple sentence. And it's amazing how they now look at tennis or plays that they do in tennis from a different perspective. I actually did that to somebody on the tennis court as well in Spanish. So I saw there's this really good talent, incredible tennis player, but it beats himself up very often. And I did the exact same thing in my best Spanish. So I have an accent, but in my best Spanish, I just told him, reconocer el error. Adelante, siguiente punto. Yeah, which basically means the same thing. Just acknowledge the mistake, move on, next point. And I specifically remember about a week and a half later, this is, this was about 3-4 months ago, that person coming back to me and saying, gracias. And we got a little bit into talking, and it's incredible. Yeah, just some simple words from somebody else and how that can make somebody else's day. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's Snipisode. Comment, like, subscribe, like everybody else says on YouTube. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you'll also find this on YouTube and whatnot. As we grow the Daily Dose, please feel free to share it, subscribe, hit me up, give me some feedback. That being said, stay dedicated, motivated, committed, all day, every day.